Nearly 30 years ago, about 4 lakh Hindus fled the Kashmir Valley in India, fearful of a separatist insurgency after facing genocidal attacks to wipe out their population from the valley. About 750 instances of a criminal nature, with almost 300 FIRs being lodged, are said to have arisen at the time. About 20 years later, a survey in 2009 found the number of remaining Kashmiri Pandits in the valley to be fewer than 3,000. Fast forward 30 years, when in a big setback for the Pandits of the valley, the Supreme Court has dismissed a curative petition for an SIT probe into the 1990 genocide. In today's episode of Chitti Media's Current Affairs show, I, Shreya Agarwal, advocate and journalist, talk to Amit Raina ji, a Kashmiri Pandit himself and spokesperson for Roots in Kashmir that fought the case in the Supreme Court. Let's hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Namaste, Amit ji. Welcome to the show.
Namaskar.
Amit ji, so the first thing that we want to know from you is that what exactly is Roots in Kashmir? What does the organization do? And how was it set up?
See, Roots in Kashmir was set up somewhere around 2006 when a group of youngsters, we were youngsters then, decided that it is time that we take the truth of Kashmir to rest of the world and to rest of India. So it was a very informal group with 10-15 youngsters who came together. And we chose to do things slightly differently from what was being traditionally done by the Kashmiri Pandit activists. We chose to use media. We chose to use social media, which had just come in with Orkut and other things, and we tried to reach to more number of people than the traditional forms of satyagrahas and protests that used to happen, and convey the truth of Kashmir. We also wanted to block because what was happening was in absence of the truth of Kashmir, the separatists of Kashmir were getting too much of space in rest of India, where they were coming and propagating the lies of Kashmir and claiming to be victims and making Kashmir a place which is occupied by India. So we also tried to expose them when they used to do the events in rest of India, by being present there, by asking them questions which were uncomfortable, by exposing them, by showing them truth. We also used to protest at many gatherings, like one of the large media houses invited once Yasin Malik, and that large media house is India Today. They invited Yasin Malik and gave him an award, calling him an icon of the year. So it was something which was frightful, which was happening, and we thought it is our duty to block these separatists, or at least expose them and show the truth to the world. And that's how Roots in Kashmir was formed. Subsequently, we moved or focused to deliver. We chose to use the judicial route to get justice, which was not given to community for last 27 years at that point of time when we went to Supreme Court first, and also intervene in other legal issues like Article 370 and 35A, and post-abolition of Article 370, the domicile law which the state introduced. We also work towards restoration of certain cultural and religious heritages in Kashmir, because we believe they are important to be preserved, because they are the symbols of existence in Kashmir.
Correct. And your most notable initiative, I would say, has been your fight for the Kashmiri Pandits in the Supreme Court. So, can you tell us more about what was this petition about? And
See, if we go by the government records, there are around 218 FIRs and I think 284 killings that have been recorded of Kashmiri Pandits that have been recorded by the state government. Even while the numbers are disputed, because we ourselves have a list of more than 1,500 people, and even in the petition which we submitted to the Supreme Court, we gave names of more than 750 people. The problem is, even with 219 FIRs and 284 killings, there has been zero progress in the case. For 32 years, post independence and post partition of this country, this is the largest exodus of any community in this country. And for 27 years, the state continued to deny and still continues to deny that an exodus of that level has happened. And that denial comes in various forms, by like calling us migrants, not getting anyone convicted. So for 27 years, there has been a zero conviction in any Kashmiri Pandit killing. Instead, the players who were responsible for the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits they had become darlings of the administration, had become darlings of the state. In 2010, I filed an RTI with Air Force, asking what is the status on the Air Force officers killing, the four Air Force officers that were killed by Yasin Malik. And to my surprise, I was shocked to know that the Air Force said we have no clue on what is the current status. So this was a state of affair of four officers who had given up their life, who were martyred in Kashmir, and the state was not concerned. And subsequently, we then tracked the cases of Yasin Malik, and we found 24 FIRs with no progress in any case. And slowly we started investigating all the FIRs, and we found that there has been no conviction, zero conviction in any of the cases. So we thought it is time to approach the Supreme Court and get an SIT formed, get the cases fast tracked, and deliver justice to the victims of genocide and terrorism. Keeping that thought process in mind, we went to the Honorable Court, believing that Honorable Court will take cognizance of the same, issue a notice to the state and center, and take the case forward. Such was the state of apathy in an investigation that in one of the RTIs which we had filed with CBI came back to us saying that we are not answerable to you because of Article 370. The Act of RTI does not apply to state of Jammu and Kashmir. To which we went to the commissioner and saying that how can a CBI, which is a central agency, claim shelter under Article 370. This was the way how things were happening in the state in the cases of genocide. So we thought, let's go to Supreme Court, and we went to Supreme Court. It was a bench headed by then Chief Justice Keher and today's Chief Justice and then Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. And they dismissed the petition on the weirdest of the reasons I have ever heard in my life, saying that 27 years is too long a period, and it will be difficult for the investigating agencies to get a proof to convict people. And we countered the Supreme Court saying that it is not your prerogative to make such a statement. Even if that what you're saying is true, it has to come from the prosecution as well as the investigating agencies. You need to issue a notice and let them come back. And if they come back and saying it is not possible, then please order the closure of 218 FIRs, because at least the victims of this genocide need a sense of closure. So Supreme Court, in its wisdom, chose not to listen to us and ordered saying that 27 years is too long a period. It was a very surprising judgment for a reason that nowhere in the world you will find any precedent of such a judgment, because crimes which are against humanity, crimes which are of such grievous nature, crimes which are of genocidal nature, do not have a time bar, and that's what the basic of law tells you. So वो हिंदी फिल्म है कश्मीर फाइल्स, उसमें एक डायलॉग है, वो सेज कि सरकार किसी भी की हो, सिस्टम हमारा है. And that is exactly what was proven to us, that sarkar kisi bhi ki ho, system hamara, and in this country, Hindus should not accept justice. Because, and why I'm making this statement is that immediately within few months, the Supreme Court of India went and ordered an SIT a probe into 1984 Sikh riots, which happened 6 years prior to the Kashmiri Pandit genocide, which was a riot. In Kashmiri Hindu killings, it was a terror killing where the family members were witnesses available. And they could identify who were the killers. There were admissions of Bitta Karate on a live TV saying that he killed scores of Hindus. There's been admission of Yasin Malik on a live TV admitting that he killed Air Force officers. He waged war against India. But they still went and formed an SIT on 84 Sikh riots. Then the same Supreme Court and goes and discards his 27-year theory and goes and opens investigation into Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose suspected death in 1945 in Formosa, which is now known as Taiwan. So Supreme Court of India believed that they can find evidences in a country which they have no jurisdiction on. They can find proofs in a country which they have no jurisdiction on, but they are incapable of giving justice to the people within their own jurisdiction. So that was Strangely enough, Supreme Court again then goes and orders an investigation of January 30th, 1948 killing of Mahatma Gandhi to investigate whether third bullet was fired or not. Even in a case where there has been already a conviction and man hanged for killing of Bapu. So this was very clear somewhere to us that the courts of this country do not want to touch the Hindu genocide problem. We challenged the same thing. We went to Supreme Court with a review petition. We went to Supreme Court again with a curative petition. We gave examples of Bangladesh. In 2013, Bangladesh, after 42 years, convicted the Jamaat-e-Islami people who committed genocidal crimes in 1971 when the Bangladesh was East Pakistan. Under Yahya Khan and Tika Khan, Jamaat-e-Islami leaders were involved in massacre of Bengalis. In 2013, 42 years after Bangladesh was formed, there was conviction and people were hanged. Jews for decades have gone and pursued and prosecuted and brought to justice scores of Nazis and Nazi supporters who have committed Holocaust or crimes against Jews. It was strange that our own judiciary ignored such precedents and made statements which to a sane mind doesn't seem right.
Exactly. You've already answered my next question, which was exactly this, that has it ever happened that in crimes which are against humanity and mass crimes, has it ever happened that retrospectively a court has gone into, the matter and say 30 years later, 40 years later, and set up a commission or set up some kind of an investigation team to look into the whole thing?
See,
That was one point. But the second
even if you
point is
look at the
also that, yeah.
even if you look at the Nuremberg trials, which happened post World War on the Nazis, it was on retrospective effect because new laws were created because the then current laws were not good enough to convict the people on crimes. So it is this law, the law in this country went and imposed a retrospective tax on Vodafone and other mobile companies. So there are enough instances. If you could do it,
I mean, that's the point, that it's always retrospective and investigation is always retrospective. You're always going back in time to find out what has happened. Further, it's not like these FIRs are being lodged, whatever the number of FIRs is. It's not that they are being lodged 30 years later or 40 years later. The FIRs were already lodged at that time whenever the crime would have happened. So we're not expecting that for 27 years the prosecution was just sitting on it, or the police or the investigation teams were just sitting on it and doing nothing. So for us or for anybody to go and ask the court that we want to know what exactly has happened in these cases, what is the progress in these cases, I think it's a fair demand. Secondly, what I need to know is that apart from this, were there any other grounds which were discussed by the Supreme Court while dismissing your petitions?
yes. See, while the order does not say so, the order has only one line saying 27 is too long a period. And there was a personal remark on the young advocate who represented us, a Kashmiri Pandit himself, who had just who was quite young at that point of time, saying, "Where were you for 27 years?" I uh, I wanted to ask the honorable court that where were you for 27 years? A court which takes so much cognizance on how cricket of this country should be run, a court which takes so much cognizance on many of things which are of may not be of great value, decides to not take a so much cognizance on the biggest ethnic cleansing that has happened in independent India. So I wanted to ask the honorable court, where were you for 27 years? And you have time for everything else. You yesterday or 2 days back, there was an order on that Bhopal Law College issue, where the principal has been warrant has been issued against principal for keeping a book which the police claims can lead to riots or is not is aggressive in nature. And the Supreme Court intervened and said that the rights of individual rights are of value and we will step in. Milord, individual rights of 5 lakh people have been trampled in this country. Why are you not waking up for that? So there's very clear what I have learned from this is that the Supreme Court of this country doesn't want to deliver justice to Kashmiri Pandits, and what they want us to do, honestly, if I go by what has been said, it means that you can go and take revenge, but don't expect justice. We are a peaceful community for 32 years. Other communities, probably, I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but there are communities in this country who would have gone up and waged a war against the state, killed people, and then justified saying that we are not getting justice, and it still happens. We still know that there are people who do that. We for 32 years have not done it. Does not mean that you take us for granted. We are saying is that our belief in this constitution, our belief in this country, in the system of this country, in the ethos of this country is high. So please deliver justice to us. We do not want to take revenge. So somewhere, I don't know what message is Supreme Court trying to convey, and nothing. We have not asked something which cannot be done. Or we said to Supreme Court, when the 27 years happened and the Supreme Court said that 27 is too long a period, we said, okay, then let the investigation agency come and say कि हम ये केस नहीं आगे बढ़ा सकते, we are incapable, or it is not possible. Then order the closure and give sense of closure at least to the victims of genocide and terrorism. They are not even willing to do that. So this is something which baffles me even today. And trust me, it makes us stronger that we will continue to fight for justice, and we will not take revenge, because that's the easier thing to do.
Uh, that's I mean, that's the only thing that is, in fact, in our hands, pursuing the legal course of action. But I want to also know that how do you think, Amitji, that the current verdict, the recent verdict by the Supreme Court, how does it affect the already ongoing cases where charge sheets are pending or which are pending at various stages?
See,
Does it affect them at all?
honestly, if you ask me, while I'm not a lawyer, but whatever limited understanding of law I have, if I was an advocate or a lawyer representing the people accused in these cases, I would go to my concerned court and say, listen, this is the Supreme Court's order, which says 27 years, the cases cannot be progressed. So why are these cases still continuing? These cases need to be dismissed. So to me, technically and logically, the 218 FIRs. Why even 218 FIRs? Because people from other community have also been killed. People from Sikh community have been killed. People from rest of India have been killed, and their cases are also languishing for years and decades now. That they all need to be closed. And if I was the lawyer for the people accused, I would go to the court and say that based on Supreme Court order, it is time to you close on cases and leave me. I also wonder that how Supreme Court is going to, or Jammu and Kashmir High Court, which is today pursuing the case of 4 Air Force officers kidnapping, which is today pursuing the case of Rubia Saeed, 4 Air Force killing and Rubia Saeed kidnapping. How are they going to admit witnesses and proofs when the Supreme Court says that it is not possible after 27 years? So honestly, it is something which some legal expert has to explain to us, saying कि वो केस कैसे चल सकते हैं जो 30 साल पुराने हैं, 31 साल पुराने हैं, and rest of the cases cannot happen. So there is a contradiction in the statement itself. Honestly,
The Supreme Court itself has held, in fact, that a crime never dies. A crime is against the society. It's not against the individual, it's against the society at large, and that it never dies. And so far as the law of limitations is concerned, it doesn't apply to criminal proceedings. So, yeah, I mean, I do hope that the Kashmiri Pandits do get some kind of justice very soon, because a sense of closure is one of the most basic things that any citizen of the country who has undergone a crime or who's faced a crime would expect. Um, the other thing that I want to come to is that what is your next course of action going to be? And coming from the Kashmiri Pandit community yourself and being well aware of the plight of your fellow community members, what were your expectations from the Indian courts, the law of the land? What were you
see,
expecting?
in month of September, yes, in the month of September, there's this organization called We the Citizens, which had gone to the Supreme Court on the similar lines that we had gone on. Supreme Court ordered them, which was again वो there's a हिंदी फिल्म का एक गाना है, घुंघरू की तरह बजता ही रहा हूं मैं, कभी इस पग में कभी उस पग में बनता ही रहा हूं मैं. So that is exactly what they did to them. They said कि आप आए हैं ये जस्टिस मांगने, you should first approach judicial executive. For 32 years, the community, the people of Jammu and Kashmir has been pursuing this. This is not something which is hidden. Every day, every news channel is talking about Kashmiri Pandit or Kashmiri Hindu genocide. There are thousands of petitions which are lying with the executive. And then just to pass on the buck, they say you go to executive. If executive doesn't listen to you, then you come back to us. Now, how do you quantify how is executive going to listen to you when 5,000 memorandums, 5,000 representations have not woken up the executive? So there is, I think, there in this country there is a clear agenda that Hindu killing has a limitation, has limitations and everything. Hindus in this country should not expect justice, and so that's the way it is. You look at Godhra cases; they are still pending, while the convictions has already happened on the Gujarat riot cases. So Hindus in this country should not expect justice. Is my feeling. That's the way system works. Somewhere is it suffering from an ostrich syndrome that everything is fine in this country, or does it suffer from a syndrome that majority in this cannot be a country cannot be persecuted or genocide committed against them? Is that the thought process? I honestly don't know. But the way I look at the things, Hindus in this country should not expect justice. Is that the way it is? And surprisingly, so while there's a window open for us to go back to the Supreme Court, and immediately after that, we started meeting the concerned people. We tried getting appointment with LG. We met divisional commissioner. We have met certain MPs. We have met certain ministers. And more than the value of the memorandum, we have been now trying to photograph each event we do with them, so that when we go to court tomorrow, saying that listen, how many more people you want us to meet before you want us to do something. Secondly, an SIT, a tribunal to investigate the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, is not necessarily that has to come from the judiciary of this country. The government of this country also can order an SIT, up a judicial panel, and put a time frame and give a reference and proceed with it, which they have also not done. Unfortunately, for the politicians of this country, the Kashmiri Hindu genocide is a game which they use for political mileage and for votes, and for Supreme Court. Nothing has ever happened to Hindus in this country. So we can continue to await justice or forget about it.
Right. So that this again was one of my questions, but you've already answered it. That there does you do think that there is some kind of an apathy, or there's some kind of fear while dealing with cases of crimes against Hindus as compared to crimes against members of other communities, and this is there uh, in the society at large and in most institutions. This is what I'm drawing from what you have just shared with us.
You can open the court at 2 a.m. in the morning for a terrorist, and you are not even open to admit a petition asking for simple fast tracking of cases which are languishing for not 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, which are languishing for 32 years. मतलब ऐसा कौन सा रिलीफ मांग लिया था हमने that you cannot give it? We are only asking you either close or fast track the cases. So yes, there is a clear apathy towards the Hindu in this country, and it is very obvious. Otherwise, as I said earlier, Supreme Court who takes so much cognizance of many things which you and I may find funny or find not relevant. They do they have they cast the victim. Where were you for 27 years? Me Lord, where were you for 27 years? Why did you not wake up and deliver justice? And something which the whole world talks about. It is not Kashmir issue. Kashmiri Hindu genocide is nothing which is hidden. The whole world knows about it. There is a even Trust me, there is, I think 2000 or 2003, I don't exactly remember that yet. I think 2003. There is an order by Human Rights Commission, National Human Rights Commission, saying that what has happened to Kashmiri Hindus is akin to genocide. So if National Human Rights Commission is saying what is akin to genocide, you still expect us to go back to executive and pressurize them to do something? Who delivers justice in this country, executive or judiciary? So it's one other question I have for the judiciary. Who delivers justice in this country? The justice in this country is delivered by judiciary, not by executive. And so they just don't want to do it.
Right. I now also want to turn, our attention to basically the society at large. So even if you look at, say, the popular media, the Kashmir Files was perhaps it was the first time ever in Bollywood that light was thrown on the mass killings to take the issue to the masses. If one looks at this whole thing objectively, then the genocide was ultimately a humanitarian issue. Yet the film has had its share of criticisms, or it has got a complete cold shoulder from the more popular members of Bollywood.
As we've been saying earlier, that see, there is for decades this country has been ruled or controlled by the left liberal system, and their penetration, their roots are deep into every institution. So whether it is film industry, whether it is media, or other institutions. Uh, so every time anything which exposes them and which puts out the truth. I still remember the famous statement of Barkha Dutt, and I'm sorry I'm using that name here. I don't know what your policy is, but Barkha Dutt in one of the NDTV reports says that Kashmiri Pandits were the ruling class, uh, they were better off, and that is why they were killed. So there was just one that is not true. That is a fake statement. But this fake statement was made to justify the killing and genocide of Kashmiri Pandits. So there was always an attempt to made to justify the killing of Kashmiri Pandits. So bichara, so there was a poor teacher's son, poor this and poor that, and the Kashmiri Pandits killing was justified. So what Kashmir Files did was that it hit them on the face, exposing them the lies that has happened. Because many people, trust me, many people during our activist days, whom we used to meet and tell what has happened in Kashmir, did not believe us, because one, there was a narrative by the left liberal which was not in line with what we were saying, and secondly, no one could believe that such thing could happen in independent India. And Kashmir Files made people understand and realize that what happened in Kashmir, this is what has happened in Kashmir, and what Kashmiri Hindus have been saying for decades is a fact. And it exposed the left liberals. It exposed them. It exposed them totally. And so there was a resistance. Look at the level of resistance. They go and say that Kashmiri Hindu killing that is happening now in Kashmir is because of movies. You still do not blame the gun. You still not blame the mindset. You still do not blame the ideology. You blame a movie which has gone and exposed that ideology. That's the level of how low they can fall to defend what they have been defending for so many decades, the lie. But the truth is that even million people speak a lie, it still is a lie. एंड झूठ दबी जाता है और सच बाहर आ ही जाता है कहीं ना कहीं, और कश्मीर फाइल्स डिड दैट.
And also, since the abrogation of Article 370, since it was abolished, how has the situation changed? What is it like in Kashmir today on the ground? Are Kashmiri Pandits returning to the valley? Has any sense of ease come in amongst them about their safety, their security, about their liberties?
See, as I said, was that what happened in 89-90 in Kashmir was not an act of crime. It was a jihad, it was an act of genocide, and it is an act of terrorism. And Kashmiri Pandits did not move out of valley because they believed they wanted to migrate, they call us migrants. They were forced to flee the valley because their lives were at stake. Now, why was Kashmiri, and many people accused of this, saying you are cowards, you did not fight. You did not kill back. Uh, and I honestly do not. I may feel bad about it, but I pity them also because their understanding of Kashmir is poor. Kashmiri Pandits are the aborigines of Kashmir. So when Islam came to Kashmir, it started converting people. Kashmiri Pandits continued to live in the pockets they lived. So we were scattered across the valley. We were not migrants. We were not. We did not live in ghettos. We lived across the valley because we are the aborigines of Kashmir. So you had villages where you had one Kashmiri Pandit family. You had villages where two Kashmiri Pandit families. In my own mohalla, we were four Kashmiri Pandit families. So even if we were armed and even if we were as brave as one could be, it was impossible to fight 60 lakh people armed with AK-47s, standing outside your house, threatening to kill your women, rape your women, sister, mother, daughter, and after killing you. So it was impossible and practically impossible to fight. Uh, the genocide happened, and then the incidents of killings, rapes, and all that happened. Now, after abrogation of Article 370, which was a historic and a great step, the government faulted on one thing. The government is faulted on one thing is that they still do not acknowledge what has happened in Kashmir is genocide, and what is happening in Kashmir right now is jihad. Now, unless and until you do not address the concern of genocide, you do not address the concern of jihad, you do not deliver justice. Now, does the government or judiciary expect me to go and live next door to the same person who was responsible for my exodus in 1990? I don't think I can do that. So you need to deliver justice to us. You need to ensure and tell us that the law of the land is applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and you will get justice. Second, we do not want to be victims of the lack of numbers again. So if you want us to go back, you will have to ensure that we live in one place. Because पिछली बार मैं एक गांव में एक था और मैं मारा गया. We are a 5 lakh people community. We will go, you give us a one place settlement. We all will live together. We're not saying that we are the only people who will live there. We will live together, 5 lakh of us. People from rest of India who want to settle in Kashmir are most welcome to live there. People who believe in the Constitution of India, believe in the ethos of India are most welcome to live there. But we do not want to die, now get killed again and see another exodus for the lack of numbers. So you need to deliver us justice. You need to give us one place settlement if you want Hindus to live back in Kashmir. And every such attempt of taking Hindus back in Kashmir will fail, whether Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Hindus. If 370 abrogation was the only solution, then why haven't they gone and established सैनिक colonies which they have been claiming for so long? Because numbers को आपको numbers से ही जूझना पड़ेगा. So that is one thing. Yes, after 370, many things have improved in Kashmir. The instance of buns have come down. The instances of stone pelting has come down. But at the same time, the Pakistan has changed its strategy. They are now more into target killing. Hindus have again been made targets. Around 35% of non-Muslims have been killed in post abrogation of Article 370. Now, this number is important for a reason that the population of non-Muslims in Kashmir Valley is not more than 1%. But the killing is around 35%. That tells you that they are being targeted. So you have to give them sense of security. मैं बाहर निकलूं और मुझे गोली मार दे तो मुझे मुझे मरने का शौक, मुझे लड़ने का शौक है, मुझे लड़के मरने का शौक है, but I do not want to be a sacrificial lamb just to tell the world that, oh, everything is normal in Kashmir. If you're serious about getting Kashmiri Pandits back, you will have to give them one place settlement. You will also have to give them justice, and you will have to acknowledge that what has happened to them is genocide. We also need to understand in 32 years, 3 generations have been lost. So we have lost many of our cultures. We have lost our language in many places. We have lost our customs. So मेरे पास कुछ बचा है, मेरे किसी दोस्त का कुछ बचा है, किसी और फैमिली का कुछ और बचा है. For us to revive that custom, revive that culture, revive those traditions, it is also important for us to live together again, so that हम सीखें एक दूसरे से कि हमने क्या गवाया है और क्या बचा है. कुछ मेरे पास रह गया है, कुछ किसी और के पास रह गया, and then we all combine that together, learn together, and revive the things we have lost.
Amit ji, one more thing that we want to know from you is that ये जो what's going on with the domicile issue, that the new domicile policy that the government has got. Can you tell us more about it and how it's affecting actual life in Kashmir
See,
and return of Hindus to the valley?
see, abrogation of Article 370 and nullifying of Article 35A was a historic step. I think one of the bravest steps I've seen taken by a government in this country. But unfortunately, they went and nullified the whole advantage they had after the abrogation of 35 and 370. And how? By introducing a domicile law. For years, we have been hearing, especially the Bharatiya Janata Party and other political parties, saying that the bureaucracy in Jammu and Kashmir is infested with people who are pro-separatist or from Jamaat-e-Islami and have or some connection somewhere with separatists. Now, the easiest and the fastest way to do is to clean up the bureaucracy is that you bring in people from rest of India who one bring in better work culture to Jammu and Kashmir and also bring cosmopolitan and a different thought process to Jammu and Kashmir. But what do you go? You go and bring in domicile law, which says that if you live in the state of Jammu and Kashmir for 15 years, then only you are eligible for the domicile. And if once you get the domicile, you are eligible for any job, government job, any class 1, 2, 3, 4, all classes, any job in state of Jammu and Kashmir, only if you are a domicile. Now, in a normal state also, in today's world, it is difficult to live in any place for 15 years because employment opportunities, education make you live across the country. Living in a terror infested state like Kashmir, where every third day there's a hit list coming out by a terror organization against non Muslims, saying that you live in so many suas, otherwise you will get killed. And we have seen scores of Hindus getting killed. You bring in a law which says 15 years. So, even in a normal state, as I said, it is not possible to live 15 years. In a terror infested state, it is impossible to live 15 years continuous in a state like Jammu and Kashmir. You should have brought in laws, kept it open for anyone. If in Delhi, Punjab, Punjab domicile law is 0 days. In Delhi, it is 0 days. So why should a state of Jammu and Kashmir, which is infested with terrorism, get any special privilege? So I think somewhere we have forgotten that we are combating jihad in Kashmir. We have unfortunately started singing the raga of lack of development, while in for years, for decades, I have never seen anyone doing a protest in Kashmir Valley, especially asking for development, better sadak, better pani, better education, better employment. All I have heard is यहाँ का चला गया निज़ाम मुस्तफ़ा कश्मीर बनेगा पाकिस्तान and all that. So if you're combating terrorism, you want better bureaucracy. The domicile law should have been more fair. And I'll give you one very recent example. Why the government of India claims that anyone can go and buy a property in Jammu and Kashmir. Uh, if you pull out the requirement to create a group housing society in Jammu and Kashmir, the first document they ask is domicile certificate. Why is domicile certificate needed if anyone can go and buy a land or a house in Kashmir? So आपने कथनी और करनी में फर्क आ जाता है. आपकी your paperwork is different from what you are actually claiming on the ground.
Well, thank you, Amit ji, for joining us, taking time out, and so beautifully and honestly taking us through all of the issues that Kashmiri Pandits have faced since the genocide. You have also talked about what the response of the Supreme Court of the country has been in deciding upon fast tracking of cases of Kashmiri Pandits. Uh, I hope that your community, the members, they get justice. As is duly expected in a democracy like ours, uh, as soon as possible. And further, I think the last thing that you highlighted was that what it would take. It is not just Article 370's abrogation, but it would take a lot more from our end to ensure the return and ensure the liberties, gifting back of the liberties to the Kashmiri Pandits of whatever they lost 32 years back. Thank you for taking us through such a beautiful and honest talk.
Thank you, Shreyaji. Thank you, Shreyaji, for amplifying our voice and taking our voice to the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.